Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. We're now into June, which means it is time to see what I got up to over May. It is time for another monthly roundup. And as ever, you can find me over on Instagram at the House of Langford, as well as at Overall Sews. I'm also on Ravelry as at Mad X Stitcher, and I have finally started to get to grips with uploading my stash. Not that there's a little bit, there's quite a lot of it, and I've already done 2 boxes worth, and I'm starting to think maybe I've got a bit too much. So that is my project for this month: get my stash updated and onto Ravelry. To kick things off for this month, I haven't actually made that much. I've been doing a lot of work for school and getting things like resources prepared, and putting together tutorials for other classes that I'm doing as well. I've also done a couple of test stitches for cross stitch, so I'm going to show you some of what I've been getting up to. So as part of my project for my year 8 and 9 students for the last month or so, whilst we've been over in lockdown, we've been working on a plastics project. Now the reason I've chosen to do a plastics project is because actually they can learn a lot about the environment, they can learn a lot about recycling, and actually we can try and do some textiles techniques just from using things like plastic bags that you might have at home, rather than having to go out and try and buy materials that normally they would get at school. Therefore, what I have done is produced a mini handout for them on how to make a cardboard loom. So all I've done is used a cut up, this was an Amazon box. I've put some pieces of card just to raise it up a bit, so that you can weave and warp from top to bottom through these little slits at the top, and then you can weave backwards and forwards. And actually some of the results that we've got from the students have been quite nice, and they've tried to experiment with the different materials they've used as well. So even though I've suggested using things like chopping up plastic bags into strips and then weaving those together, some of them have actually found some yarn at home and done one with wool yarn or acrylic yarn and done a traditional weaving, whereas others have used things like embroidery thread or string, and then some like wrapping materials, so you know the stringy paper material you get for wrapping presents, mainly at Christmas. They've used that to weave through, and it's actually come out really pretty. So it's just a nice way of experimenting with materials and seeing what they can achieve at home without having to use things like fabrics or any fibre pieces of work to actually create something different, but still learning a technique they can use in other projects as well. Now, even though I am still teaching at school, so in a school, but I also teach evening classes. Usually I would teach at an adult community college, but now we've moved everything online. It's proving quite difficult actually to try and teach a dressmaking class online. So what I normally do anyway is start with basic projects to get them into sewing and get them used to their sewing machines again, and just making sure everybody's on the same sort of wavelength to start with. So the first thing that we did as a project is actually make drawstring bags. So I've produced a tutorial for this as well, so that will be up on the channel shortly. And in the process, because obviously I have to make along for the tutorial and then make along whilst teaching it, I've ended up making 3 of these drawstring bags. So the first one is what I did for the online class. So when I was actually teaching it, I made one using an old duvet from Asda. It's got these astronaut cats on it in these rainbow colours. There we go, there's a whole cat, and there's one little kitty at the bottom. And that's just using some cotton fabrics and then some ribbon. And then for the tutorial I used some marble fabric that I'd found in my stash. Again, I've got some ribbon, and this one is lined in a plain red cotton. And then the last one I've got is something I made with just some, I don't really want to say scraps, they're not scraps, they're just not big enough to do the whole square on its own, so I've had to stripe my fabric and create a piece big enough. I've used this really nice unicorn fabric at the bottom, and then I've got some stripes of batik just to make the actual fabric the right size. And actually these two are going to be presents, so they've already got presents inside. And because sometimes it's very difficult to work with zips, or people find it difficult to work with zips, and sometimes they avoid them in terms of making clothes or any project for that matter, my next project with them is actually making a zippy purse. Now this is already on the channel as a tutorial for you, and I think I did that last month. Yeah, so I did that just before Christmas, and that was in last month's roundup. So I've made another 2 following that tutorial whilst teaching it as well. So I used this one when I was teaching it a couple of weeks ago to my evening ladies, and just finished this one up because it was almost halfway done. So I've made 2 more zippy purses as well. And that is pretty much it for my makes this month. Or is it? Now, as I said at the beginning, I have been doing some test stitches. So I've joined a lot of cross stitch groups recently because I found a lot of projects that were either half done or almost finished. And you saw last month that I actually completed 3 projects that I started in 2011. Yes, you heard me correctly. 2011. That's 9 years ago now. We had this crazy idea on a forum that I used to belong to, which no longer runs. And the idea was that it was a crazy 15 for 2011. Now you would start 15 cross-stitch projects in January, and the aim was to complete those 15 projects by Christmas. And when I looked back, I think I only completed maybe 1 or 2. And one of them was only this big. So, yeah. Clearly, 15 in 1 year did not work at that point. So anyway, I have now found all of those projects, and that is what I am working on through lockdown. At the same time, like I said, I was asked to do 2 test stitches for some designers that are working on new patterns. Now, I mentioned one of these last month because I was working on it at the time. Now it is finished, and it is totally awesome, dude. It's a toad on a surfboard riding a wave. I mean, it's cool, right? And my husband likes it as well. So I asked to do this one because my husband is a skateboarder, and I thought he would enjoy the idea of a surfboarding toad. And we've also been finding some toads, or what they call marsh frogs, I think they are, in our local area whilst we've been going on a walk. So he's been trying to record their really weird sounds that they make. It's kind of like a clicking noise. This one I'm going to have to cover up a couple of words because it's kind of naughty. If I can. I might not be able to. Let's see. I'm going to try and do it with a pen. Even though it's a clear pen, but there we go. So I have been doing this one. It is an Adulting Top Review by John Doe. I think we can kind of guess. The first word begins with an F, and the second word begins with an L, with a B. So that is another test piece I've done. Now you're supposed, on the pattern it says to fill in the white on the little person icon here, but actually I've left it blank because when I did start stitching it with the white, there wasn't much difference between the grey, even though obviously the background is white. So I've just left it, and hopefully that shows up a little bit better. So that is Adulting Top Reviews. Clearly we would not recommend Adulting. And those are the 2 cross stitch projects that I finished this month, and I just need to get them washed, pressed and framed so that I can send off some really nice pictures for them. Moving on now to whips. I have joined the Hippalong with Gemma from the project bag, and we've been attending evening crochet, we've been attending evening sip and chat, like craft nights via Zoom, and we've all agreed to make a hexy animal or an African flower animal. So I have been working on some hexagons. Now, I originally wanted to make the Dragon Smorg by Heidi Bears, but actually I don't think the colours I'm using will work for a dragon. Now, I've now got 24 hexes in blues and pinks. So those are all the blue ones, and then those are my pink ones. So now I've made a lot of hexagons because the dragon takes so many that I wanted to try and get them done as quickly as possible. And I think you need over 100 hexagons. So I got these done pretty quickly. They only took a couple of days to really do them, or a few days. And I've been using the yarn you get from the Big and Little Crochet. The Big and Little Crochet subscription. The little subscription books you can get. So I've got some white, well, the one I'm holding up is the only one I haven't actually used because that's the one I want to use for joining them all, which is the grey. So we've also got the white, there's a light pink and dark pink. And then there are 4 different shades of blue. Let's find all of those. And those are the 4 blues. So I have been using the main 6 colours and then edging them all in the white so that I can join them all in the grey. Now, as I said, I wanted originally to do the dragon, which is Smorg, but obviously pink and blue doesn't really shout dragon to me, and I'm trying to use what I've got in my stash rather than order something that I don't necessarily need right this minute. And I've actually got plenty of DK in my stash, which I think would be better suited for the dragon. But I wanted to use this because it's a nice cotton yarn. It's really soft, really nice to work with. Doesn't really split. And I had it to hand. I've got quite a lot of this. I mean, it's all in this. I've got this bag full of it. So full that it won't shut. And actually I found some more the other day, so it's not like I'm going to run out of it anytime soon, so I can still keep going with these. Now, what I'm actually planning on doing with these is potentially making a hippo or 2 hippos, so I could have 1 pink hippo and 1 blue hippo, so I get 1 of each colour, which means I need to make some more pink ones. But I've got too many hexagons, so I'm going to need to make lots of octagons, I need to make heptagons, I need to make pentagons, and then finally I can start to put them together. And I think actually we now have a deadline for the end of June, so I've only got this month to do it, so wish me luck. I have purchased the Heidi Bears pattern for that, and I will be working on that over June. But in the meantime, I also have some other projects on the go. I still have my cable cow, which is living in my Bumblebee retreat bag, my Emmeline Bags retreat bag. And I have made some progress. Not an awful lot. I finally put a progress keeper on now. So I've made maybe, I think it's 1-2 repeats of the pattern. Yeah, 2 repeats of my pattern there. And it's getting quite long now. So if I keep going, I should be able to finish that fairly soon. I don't think it's quite, we're almost at 50. I mean, it's not too bad. So hopefully that will be finished soon. That's got a cable running either side, and the idea is that you make a long strip and sew it together in a tube. So it's a nice squidgy cow, and that is worked up in 2 strands of Aran yarn by the WI, and that is a pattern by Carol from BTHQ, Beautiful Things, which I started, I want to say last year, but it could have even been before last year at this point. I can't remember. So that is another one of my whips. Now I've also put a little bit of work into my Between the Lines shawl. Mainly because I decided to get an app on my phone called Tiny Decisions and put in all of my whips into there, and every now and then when I don't know what to do or I can't decide, I just tap that and it will spit out one of my projects for me to work on. So it told me to work on this one for some time. So it's living in my second retreat bag. This is made in a really nice cotton I got from Let's Sew It, Lorna at Let's Sew It, and this is the one that I keep my pin badges on. Let's have a look and see if I've got a marker in here to show you where I was before. I do. Look, there's my marker. This was from, oh my gosh, I can't even remember now, but she doesn't make them anymore. It's a laser cut heart stitch marker. Now obviously that's not an awful lot of progress, but it took me about 10 minutes to work out where I was on the pattern, and there's not an awful lot of it. It fits on the screen. It's one of those projects that's going to take a very long time to do, because I'm nowhere near halfway through the yarn at all. This is a sheep-ease pattern. I'm using the sheep-ease wool in Rose Water Cocktail and Licorice Yum Yum, so that the colours will alternate. And it is a lovely pattern. It is so easy to work on. It's really easy to just pick up in terms of once you've got going, obviously, because it took me a little while to work out what round I was on. If you stop at the beginning of the repeat section or at the end of a page, it's a lot easier to pick up. But it had been so long that I couldn't remember where I was. So I might do some more on that. I'm not really sure. I need to do my hippos first before I do anything else. But that doesn't stop me working on other whips either. So I have one more whip to show you that I've been working on over May. I did pick up another one at the beginning of June, but I'm not going to show you that one because I picked it up in June and not May. This one has been going on for eons, almost a decade, eons. This is the Big Four Cats. I don't know what the name of the pattern is, or do I? Does it have a name? No, no name. I just liked the picture and then I bought it. So it's these Big Four Cats. So we've got a tiger, a lion. So tiger, lion, leopard, and I believe that's a puma at the end, but I don't really know. So yes, it's massive. It fills my screen. It's really difficult to work on this. Firstly, it is Black Ada, so I can't really work on it at night. I've had to buy myself a new light so that I get daylight in a way to work on it. But there's no block colours in it. There's no like sections of just one colour. It's all darted everywhere. And even though I've been working on this over May, I still don't see much progress in it. And it's really disheartening to try and keep going. I've managed to finish a section. This section up here appears to be almost finished. This bit is finished. But there's still so much. It does now look like a tiger. I'll give it that. And I've added some to this a couple of days ago. So it is progressing. It's just very slow. And at the moment, I'm trying to finish projects that will give me a sense of achievement whilst we're in lockdown. Because I don't want to get stressed out or worried that I'm getting bored with something, when actually these are supposed to be things that keep me happy and keep me sane. Whereas not seeing progress is not going to do that for me. So this is one of those projects that I will pick up once I have put some serious work into something else. It has been going on now for so long. I had hoped to finish it for the All Sick Country show years ago, to be honest. But each year I'm quite optimistic. I'll get it finished for September. And that still hasn't happened. So with lockdown, I thought maybe I would get this finished for September this year. Sadly, the All Sick show has now been cancelled because of the current situation, which I completely understand, but actually now it gives me another year to finish it. So I'm not in any major hurry. The main issue though is that I bought this to do for my dad years ago and it's still not finished. And I'd like to get it finished and give it to him. And it would be a huge achievement for me to make sure it is finished, because I remember going on holiday in 2011 with my son, just me and him, to stay with my aunt for a couple of weeks in Mallorca, and I did the lion whilst I was there. Everything else has come since then. I didn't finish it necessarily, but I know I did the lion there because I remember sitting around the pool and I was working on the darkest colour possible because it was really bright weather and it meant that I could see it properly. And actually, the sun has bleached that colour. So the very dark brown here is actually the same colour, if I can do this, as this dark brown here. And it's bleached it. So this is a lot darker than this one. And actually I don't mind that. It works because it was done, that piece was done all at the same time. So it doesn't bother me. It's just a little fact about it, really. But yes, other than that, when it's finished, it will be lovely. The last bit of my podcast tends to be about what I've purchased that month. And actually, I don't think I have purchased anything not of great importance anyway, other than food. I have picked up some things like interfacing for my projects, my sewing projects. I've picked up some wadding, some fusible wadding, so that I can use that in my projects as well. I've also picked up I ordered some black Ada in an 18 count, so it's a much smaller count fabric to work with for a project. And I've had some threads for the projects I was working on earlier to try and finish those off because I didn't have them in my stash. I bought one of these at the very beginning of lockdown and I haven't shown you yet, so I'm going to show you. I bought another kit from Stitchspiration. It is a cross stitch kit. This one says Maker's Gonna Make. And I love these kits because they come in these black envelopes. Everything is included in here for you. So you have your charts. So Maker's Gonna Make. You have your chart, and it's great because you get 2 different copies of the chart. One is standard size, so small squares, and one is a large size, so you get bigger squares, which means you can decide what chart you're going to use. And the main thing that draws me to her charts and her kits are the fabrics that you get. These are all hand painted fabrics. So back in, was it June or July last year, I stitched the Mr. and Mrs. one from my wedding day, and I had the rainbow background. This one is just the sunset background, so from purple through to yellow in the middle. And I just really like working with her fabrics. They're lovely, and they're so simple because it's just black stitching. So you just get black thread to work up your project. You don't need to worry about changing colours. And the final result, there's another example. the final result is actually really striking, and they always look really effective. So yeah, it's a nice little store to check out. That is stitchspiration.com. The other thing I got, I know arrived last month. It was either at the very, very beginning of May or the very, very end of April, and I've just forgotten when it was delivered. And it is a 3D Granny Squares book. Now, I've had a quick look in this. Somebody pointed it out to us on a Facebook group. I believe it was a BTHQ group, and couldn't not buy it. These are really, really cute, and it's laid out so well. Each page has got the final picture of what it will look like. You've got 2 different charts to show you how to work it up, and you've got all the instructions next to it. And each block is the exact same. So every block in the book is laid out in the same format, and each one you work the base and you work the elements, the motifs that go on top. So the first one that I really want to do is this sheep, just because he's super cute. And do you know what? I know I've got loads of yarn for this as well. I've got loads of, what is it called? I can't even remember what it's called now. I've got loads of cotton yarn, not the cotton yarn I've got from the Big and Little Crochet Project subscription. I've got loads from something else. When I was trying to find colours for my temperature blanket, I ordered loads of, it won't come to mind, I'll put it at the bottom. Loads of cotton yarn to try and replace colours for it, and those would be perfect for this because I know I've got loads to work with. So that is it for another month. As I said, we're now in June. We've been in lockdown since, the end of March? So the whole of April, the whole of May, probably the whole of June. As I said, I'm a teacher, so I'm still working. I'm still having to set work for learners remotely, as well as go into work, whether it's once or twice a week or over 2 weeks. And I think we're a long way off of returning back to normal. I guess we're all just trying to do our best and get on with whatever we can be doing at home, whatever we can be doing for our learners, for our friends, for our family. And I miss everybody, and it's very difficult to keep up interacting with people in a different format. How are you all doing? That's what I should be asking. How are you all doing? I hope that you are all keeping well and you are finding some sort of normality, or at least something to keep you sane. I know that my husband is finding it very difficult, but at the same time we just need to get on with it and try and see where this all leads. So looking forward to another fun month of creating content for you, whether that is tutorial based or just me working on projects really. I might even try and bring back the Whip Wednesdays to show you what I'm working on throughout the month, rather than just whack it all at the end of the month for you, just so you can get an idea of what I'm working on. As always though, I like to post everything, not necessarily everything, but I like to post things onto Instagram, and most of my current projects are actually on Overall Sews. There's not an awful lot going on over at the House of Langford at the moment, but that's because I need to focus on business stuff really for that one, because I now have the other one. Now I'm rambling. Right, means I need to stop this and start editing, otherwise I'm just going to go bleh. So here is to another month, and I will see you all again very soon in July. Yes, July. Oh my gosh, 6 months already. Yeah, it's flying by. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.